Hey writer friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you a writer life update all about how I finished my novel and my upcoming plans to start querying. So I have not announced this outright until today. I've kind of sprinkled in some hints and things like that on my social media, mostly on Instagram, in some posts and reels, but I finished the third draft of Project Diamond. Yay! And not only that, but I finished on the last day that was my deadline, which was February 28th. Now, if you all have been following me for a while, you'll know that it took me a while to finish this draft. It was crazy how long it took me to do developmental edits for this novel. Like, it was just insane. I had the worst just stumbling block and just like fear over having all of these changes to make, that even though I was trying to follow my own advice about how to break through my rut and like overcome these things and break things down, it still just would not stick. But this year, you know, I came up with my game plan all about the dates that I want to have set for when I want drafts to be done, when I want to start querying, all of that fun stuff. But so what I want to talk to you about today is kind of my process and some of the ups and downs that I had while I finished this third draft, but then also my next steps and plans, which will lead me to start querying this year, which is really, really exciting. So if you don't know me, my name is Holly. I'm a kid lit writer working on a YA fantasy, Project Diamond, that I am talking about today. And I'm also the host of the Diversity is Lit book club that is linked down below if you would like to join. We read one book a month by a BIPOC author, and then we talk about it on my channel. Super, super fun, so you don't want to miss that. So I'm going to pop in a graphic, probably here or something like that, of my graph that I worked on the last half of, about a little more than the last half of Project Diamond in order to finish these developmental edits. But you can see that I did not start the year off like super, super strong. I already had about 28,000 words that I had edited for Project Diamond during NaNoWriMo and a little bit in December, not too much. But with the new year, I was like, I am going to kick things off strong. I am going to finish this draft and like have my breakthrough. But January did start kind of slow, as you can see. But then, like, you know, after a week or two, I was like, I'm supposed to be editing, and what's going on, Holly? So I kind of kicked my butt into gear and started editing. And one of the big things that was a challenge for me was that there were, in particular, 2 chapters that I really had to like rewrite. And actually one of the chapters I expanded so much with the plot that it ended up being 2 new chapters. But those were really tough for me because there were some parts of the scenes that I was keeping, or some that I'm like, okay, I could use this, but kind of rework it a little bit to make it work for what's happening now in the new plot that I've created. But like, there were some things that I couldn't keep. So it's like going through like the whole chapter and being like, okay, I can take this line, but not this. And this might work, but maybe for a different scene in another, you know, chapter or something, but it's not going to work in this chapter anymore. So it was constantly just kind of shifting and moving things around. And I just haven't done that in a while, so it was really a challenge for me. So it was chapter 13, which was a big scene rewrite, and then chapter 23, I believe. So if you see the spikes in the graph, you can see that like that was when I just realized that those chapters were just holding me back, and I needed a lot of energy to tackle those chapters. So I just was like, okay, I'm gonna work on the chapters after that, keeping in mind the changes that I'm making. So there were some things where I'm like, oh wait, they have to mention this based on what I'm changing in the previous chapter. So it was really kind of keeping that in my head as I moved along. But that really gave me the momentum that I needed and the confidence that I could reach this goal by February 28th, and like gave me that boost and just made me feel so good that like, yeah, like the story's good and I can do it. So I just had a lot of motivation with that, but that is a tip that really helped me, was just, you know, if you're stuck on a chapter or you're seeing that it is a lot of work, just move on. And, you know, eventually you'll have to go back to it, but you kind of get that boost of energy and like creativity that you need to then tackle those harder parts. Another thing is, like, looking back in retrospect, I did not let the fact that I started January off so slow, I didn't let that affect the rest of the year for me, because I was like, well, I didn't edit then, but let me start editing now. And then seeing those huge spikes where I clearly was behind like the whole time. My numbers are way below the graph the whole time. And so it was like also using that as fuel for the fire and using that as motivation, but not letting it tear me down. I was using it more as like a boost and a stepping stone, as opposed to a stone that was like tied to my foot and pulling me down. The other thing that really helped me was realizing that, yes, it's taken me a year to edit this draft, but this isn't the finished draft. This isn't the finished novel. I finished this draft, but like I still have edits to do. So girl, it's okay if it's not perfect right now, because you're gonna have time to work it before you go and start querying. Like, yes, you've reached this next stage, but it still doesn't have to be perfect. So that was really good for me too, in giving me permission to still be messy and still be learning and to not get things perfect. Because even when I do start querying, it's still not gonna be perfect. There's still gonna be changes that the agent's gonna wanna make. There's still gonna be changes that the editor's gonna wanna make if I hopefully get a publisher with this and a book deal. But yeah, so it's just was learning that just really like helped me be able to push forward. And also I kind of had to rework some things that I didn't usually do. So I, you know, try to hop onto YouTube and do writing sprints with people if they're live. I did have a couple live writing sprints, but not as many. I never do as much as I do during NaNoWriMo and Camp NaNoWriMo. And I swear, like every time I talk about it, I say I'm gonna like make a schedule and change things, and then I never do. But that really does hold me accountable. But I did kind of use my friends and accountability in a different way, where I ended up messaging my friends and like, hey, like I really want to get this done, like hold me accountable. I gotta message you at the end of the day with how I did. And then one of my writer mastermind group friends, Alicia, and also Savannah too, they also were kind of holding me accountable, and we hopped on for a couple writing sprints on Facebook Messenger, which is where we meet for our mastermind group. But so like we usually don't like meet like that to write, which is weird as a writer mastermind group, but like we've kind of got our own goals and go on and do that with our own schedules. But I was like, I really need someone here like physically like with me as much as my internet friends can. And so, you know, we hopped on and we did some sprints, and that really helped me as well. So just really using those writing sprints to hold me accountable, really using my writer friends so that I could get it done, because I also realized that I can't do this by myself, and I do need some sort of outside motivation and outside accountability to hold myself accountable. Like I unfortunately am not as strong as I want to be, but it helps to know that those friends are there. So they were such a big help. So some fun facts, some fun numbers about Project Diamond is I finished the first draft during NaNoWriMo 2020 at 55,000 words. So it was a pretty short draft, because usually my YA fantasies are at least 70K, definitely over 65. So that was pretty low, and I think that was one of the reasons why I struggled with these developmental edits so much, was because I usually am like an on-point writer. I'm not an overwriter, I'm not an underwriter, I'm pretty much an on-point writer. But I had a lot that I had to beef up and add, which is really, really hard for me. I want things to be right the first time. I want to give myself the least amount of work in the future as I can. So that's just a note that I will take with me for my future novels, to really, really, really make sure that I'm outlining it as best I can. But anyway, so the second draft, which was all of the edits that I had done before I sent it off to beta readers and critique partners, ended up being at 62K. So I did add 7K, but it was still pretty lean for, if you heard me say I wanted it to be at least 65K. But this draft, this third draft, ended up being 74,300 words. So I added 12K with this draft, and that was a lot. And that was one of the things that was really hard for me to push in the last 2 days. February 27th and 28th were rough because I could see that light at the end of the tunnel, that I was almost done with this draft. I only had 40,000 words that I needed to edit, but because I wrote so much, I had so many more words that I had to add. So I actually had to increase my word count goal on the Nano website to 46,000 words. So I really ended up editing 46K in 2 months. And looking at my timeline, it was really a month and a half, where if you look, it took me a whole year. It took me all of 2021 to edit 28K. So you could see this huge jump, this huge shift in my mentality, in my my mental health, just my writer life, everything. So yes, it is currently sitting over 74, almost 75K, which is pretty exciting. So we'll go into my next steps now, my plans for the future, and what is going on with this draft. So another big motivator was that my friend Savannah, she also was working on her manuscript, finishing editing that so that we could swap our manuscripts and give each other feedback. So another pro tip is to have the external accountability and that accountability buddy to be like, hey, like, let's swap drafts at the end of the month or on this date or around this date, give or take, as another way to kind of give you motivation and like kind of give you that kick in the pants to put your button share and hands on keyboard. But so I've got my calendar, my timeline here. I had said to finish the third draft on February 28th, which I did, yay! And then send it to my critique partner, which I did. And then the things that I had for the beginning of March was to start my query package and to start my agent list. And so it's actually a funny story because I was planning on querying Project Diamond last year, like last May. I was gonna start querying because I had a crazy timeline in my head that was very, very inaccurate and unattainable. Let's just ignore past Holly's mistakes. But so I'd actually paid for a submission package critique from Kim Chance, and thankfully she is still honoring that critique. And so I have a week. I was like, I'm gonna give myself like a week and a half to work on the submission package so that like I can just kick my butt into gear and just get this draft out so I can get feedback. But so what this submission package critique is pretty much everything that I'm gonna need to submit and query literary agents. So things that I will be working on this week, and then I will be sending to Kim Chance on the 13th, which is in a week, is the query letter, the synopsis, which is 1 to 2 pages, and then the first chapter, which is about the first 10 pages. I try to keep that first chapter less than 10 pages so that when the agent is reading my submission, they will at least get that first chapter, because that would be like the worst to like have the first chapter end at like the 11th page, but you can only send them the first 10 pages because that's what they want. So yeah, I usually try to do that just in case. But so I am so excited to be working on some query materials this month while I'm waiting for my critique partner feedback. But then of course this month I will also be reading and critiquing her story, which I'm so excited about. And so I am just, feeling in a really good place with being like, I don't have to edit this, I don't have this looming over me, and I can work on query material. So probably then, I don't know how long it will take him to get back to me on the feedback, but for the rest of the month, I am planning then on implementing her feedback on the query submission package, as well as starting my agent list. Now, I do have an old list of agents from when I did query the Celestio code, so I'm gonna go through that list and clean it up because I'm sure there are some agents that are no longer around. There might be some new agents at the agencies, or they may have switched agencies, or they may not represent, the genre or age category that they used to. So just all of these changes. So I need to clean it up and kind of come up with a, more catered agent list specifically for Project Diamond. So that is my plan for the rest of March, and to help me move along from finishing the third draft to hopefully querying in the summer. Fingers crossed. If you're currently in the editing trenches, I have a whole playlist that has videos for advice on developmental edits, online edits, critique partners, beta feedback, the whole shebang. So I'll link that down below and up in the cards as well. Now let me know, are you on track with your goals so far for writing this year? I'm more than happy to give feedback to you all, so let me know in the comments if you're having any stumbling or roadblocks, or just need like a good cheer buddy to just kind of, you know, give you some motivation, or yeah, some sort of motivation Monday, some quote. I'm all about that on Instagram, giving my motivation. So I'd love to help you guys out if you're in like a tough spot. Or you can celebrate your wins and what has gone so well the past 2.5 months. All right, you guys, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.